Hey now, metalheads, it's Black Metal Werewolf making a brand new video for you this week. And today I would like to talk about an article that I came across the other day that I found very interesting. It's from the website metaladdicts.com, and it is about how Gen Z is attempting to cancel everybody's favorite death metal band, Cannibal Corpse. Well, after I read the article, I had some very strong opinions that I would like to discuss. So first, let's read through the article together to see exactly what's going on, and then we'll talk about it. But before we get into it, don't forget to follow me on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitch. And if you like the paranormal, you can check out my paranormal podcast, The Lost Campfire, on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And if you have a paranormal story that you would like to share, you can send it to thelostcampfire@gmail.com today to possibly be featured in a future episode. I can't wait to hear what you guys have experienced and to share it with other paranormal enthusiasts. And while you're at it, I would really appreciate it if you were to like, subscribe, and to share this video. Little things like that go a long way in helping the channel grow. But now that all of that stuff is out of the way, let's get down to the article and see why Gen Z wants to cancel Cannibal Corpse.
In a clash of generations and ideologies, death metal legends Cannibal Corpse finds themselves under siege from a new wave of critics, Gen Z. Known for their graphic lyrics and imagery, the band has long been a lightning rod for controversy. But now, a vocal segment of the younger generation is demanding the band's cancellation, claiming their music promotes violence, misogyny, and harmful stereotypes. The controversy ignited when social media user brought up Mindless Self-Indulgence's song Panty Shot, arguing that while art should be separated from the artist, the song's explicit lyrics about a minor blurred the lines. This claim gained traction after it was revealed that Mindless Self-Indulgence singer Jimmy Urine faced sexual assault allegations involving a minor in 2021. The conversation took a new turn when someone introduced Cannibal Corpse into the mix by sharing lyrics from their song Necropedophile. This prompted a heated debate, with some condemning the band's explicit content while others defended their music as a form of extreme artistic expression distinct from the more mainstream genre of mindless self-indulgence. This motherfucker, and anyone who listens to him, should be shot dead execution style. I do not want to share the society with mentally ill freaks, one person on Twitter wrote. Another person came to the defense of the band's lead singer, George Corpsegrinder Fisher, writing, "Gen Z discovering Cannibal Corpse and trying to cancel them is hilarious. Meanwhile, Corpsegrinder is out here playing claw machine games and donating the stuffed animals to kids in need." They said, sharing some photos of Corpsegrinder playing claw machine games and giving the toys to children who need them. Later on, former Bad Wolves singer Tommy Vexed said in a tweet, "Gen Z scene kids trying to cancel Cannibal Corpse for lyrics written before they were born is the reason why metal is dying as a culture."
So the first thing I want to say after reading that article is that I absolutely hate this concept of intergenerational fighting. The idea that one generation is superior to the others simply because they were born in a certain time period, be it earlier or later, that's something only a retarded person thinks. And I'm telling you right now, throughout my life, I have interacted and worked with pretty much every generation, and there are good people and shitheads in every single one of them. But getting back to the article heavily implies that this is a Gen Z specific problem, that one specific generation has an issue with the imagery and lyrics from the band Cannibal Corpse, when the reality of the situation is, this is not a generational problem, this is a weak-minded person problem. And this is not the first time, nor will it be the last time, that mentally weak people have kicked up a fuss because they encountered controversial or possibly offensive art. I'm sure many of us can remember to the 90s and early 2000s when Marilyn Manson was public enemy number one. Weak-minded people found his artwork to be offensive and controversial, so they kicked up a fuss. But this dates back even earlier than that. In the 1980s, you had that pussy Al Gore and that wife of his going after multiple different types of musicians. Before that, the public was after Kiss and Alice Cooper. Before that, it was Elvis. And this even predates rock and roll and metal music. In the 1950s, there were several government hearings about the supposed effect that comic books had on the youth. I'm sure I could dig up more examples from the 30s and 40s, but by now I'm sure you guys get the picture. It's not a generational thing, it's a weak-minded person thing. And this is nothing new. Now, when you really look at the root of the problem, it boils down to Puritanism. Now, in the past, Puritanism primarily came from right-wing religious groups. At the time, they were super pissed off that rock and metal, in their mind, stood in defiance to their religious morality. However, this new generation isn't hell-bent on religious morality, they are hell-bent on politically correct morality. But either way you look at it, it's still Puritanism. The idea that everyone has to follow this very specific ideology, regardless of whether it's politically or religiously motivated, and anyone who steps out of line must be corrected and re-educated, and if they cannot be corrected and re-educated, they must be eliminated. Now, I know that sounds fucking scary, but if history has taught us anything, it's that these puritanical crusades are rarely successful and tend to fizzle out pretty quickly. But with that being said, there have been some successes in the past that can still be felt to this day. Looking back to the 1950s in comic books, when all of these government hearings were revolved around horror comics and everything, these comic book companies came together and made a comic book code that they all had to follow or their comics couldn't be sold. And that effectively destroyed the horror comic industry. And being felt today, do you want to know why Batman doesn't kill anybody? It's not because the writers for Batman have this strong moral superiority about rehabilitation and the death penalty. It's because the comic book code back in the 50s forbid it. Back in the day, Batman used to kill people all the time, but once the code came into place, all the writers at DC dropped down to their hands and knees so they could lick as much boot as possible. But as the years went on, more artists started to stand up for themselves and push back against these people. And when you do that, they tend to crumble right in front of you. It also doesn't help that when these crazy people go on a tirade about something, it usually makes that thing more popular. I guarantee you Alice Cooper and Kiss and Marilyn Manson, all of their record sales were helped by crazy people complaining about them. And once again, it's not just about music. Back in the early 90s, former President George Bush Sr. talked shit about The Simpsons. And what happened? The Simpsons became one of the biggest TV shows of the 90s. It also helped that they actually made an episode where Homer Simpson beats the shit out of George Bush. So it all comes around one way or another. But with that being said, it's not really about the artists standing up and pushing back, it's more about the companies that they work for. Because companies, like record labels, don't seem to have the balls that they used to. Back in the day, it would be like, oh, you're accusing our artist of causing a school shooting? Go fuck yourself. But now, so many companies are terrified of having a bad public image that they would rather sell out their employees and their artists just so they can appear virtuous online to crazy people. Now, I'm certainly not saying that the record label that Cannibal Corpse is under is going to do that. I'm just saying that I would not be surprised if that were to happen. You have to remember, the idea of the slippery slope is not a fallacy. When it comes to people like this, if you give them an inch, they are going to take a mile. There's an old saying that I love, and that is, an unjust man will say, "Meet me in the middle." So you take a step towards them. Then the unjust man will take a step back, and they will say, "Meet me in the middle." That is what's going to happen if you give in to these people. So let's say this cancellation attempt was successful, that the guys from Cannibal Corpse get dropped from their record label and their management, and they all lose their income. Then what? Who is next? Because once you get rid of one because you don't like their imagery and their lyrics are offensive to you, the gate is then wide open to any other rock or metal band, or any other genre of music really. Like, while we're at it, why don't we cancel Amon Amarth? Because hey, they glorify and romanticize the Vikings. The Vikings raped, they murdered, they pillaged, they took slaves. Their society did not accept gay people. Why not cancel them? Obviously, I'm not suggesting we actually do that, but there's evidence to support their cancellation. There are so many other artists we can do the same to. It's just a slippery slope. Once you get rid of one, it's going to be another and another and another, and then where does it all end? Now, is any of this actually going to happen? I really don't think so. After all, Cannibal Corpse has been around for several decades, and even when people do have issues with their problematic lyrics and imagery, that just makes the fans dig in even more and support them. And even if they were to get fired by their record label and management, I guarantee you that the fans would 100% step up and support them one way or another. They would either get another record deal somewhere else, or the fans would still buy tickets and merch and all that cool stuff. So even if it were to happen, Cannibal Corpse is still going to be popular, and they're still going to make money. Now, after listening to everything I just said, and all the points I just made, it should be noted that this entire controversy and attempted cancellation all boils down to a Twitter argument.
Better be more specific. Lazy, clumsy, dim-witted, monstrously ugly.
And if life has taught me anything, it's that anyone who takes Twitter seriously should not be taken seriously. But to bring it back to one of my earlier points, this is a mentally weak person problem. As long as there are mentally strong people around, we will win. And if you don't want to believe me, just listen to these wise words from one of my all-time favorite movies.
Easy, easy, whoa, you gotta calm down there, Chuck.
I hurt people. I'm a dick.
Well, being a dick ain't so bad. See, there's three kinds of people. Dicks, pussies, and assholes. Pussies think everyone can get along, and dicks just want to fuck all the time without thinking it through. But then you got your assholes, Chuck. And all the assholes want us to shit all over everything. So pussies may get mad at dicks once in a while because pussies get fucked by dicks. But dicks also fuck assholes, Chuck. And if they didn't fuck the assholes, you know what you'd get? You'd get your dick and your pussy all covered in shit.
And to close things off here, I don't want to take too much credit, but I did predict this whole thing would happen a few years ago. So I'm sure plenty of you don't follow my Black Metal Werewolf Facebook page, but for those of you who do, you may remember this. A few years ago, around Christmas, a bunch of people were complaining about the Christmas song, Baby It's Cold Outside. At the time, they claimed that the song was problematic because it endorsed rape, which of course is an asinine idea to have. But of course I saw that and just saw the golden opportunity for a joke, and I cracked saying, people who are offended by Baby It's Cold Outside, man, those people should never listen to Cannibal Corpse. So, I don't want to say I'm some sort of mythical wizard who can predict the future, but the evidence is clearly there. But now I want to get your guys' opinion on all of this. Do you agree with me that this is just weak-minded people blowing controversial art out of proportion? Or do you actually think that, yeah, Cannibal Corpse should be held accountable for their problematic lyrics and imagery? Please give me your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section. I would love to know, and I'm sure plenty of other metalheads would like to know too. But overall, thank you very much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Oh yeah, and don't forget to stay brutal.